Patreon.com/the Walk-Off Podcast. $4 a month gets you in there.
We are thrilled to have returning to the show Toronto Blue Jays analyst and reporter for MLB.com, Keegan Matheson. Welcome back to the Walk-Off, man.
Happy to be here, fellas. How we doing?
Oh, so good. Great job, by the way, on getting all us baseball nerds all that spring training content we need so much. It does not go unnoticed, my dude.
No, I'm glad. People are always thirsty those early days. I think I could tweet out a video of the blurriest, most nondescript thing in the world, and it would have 1,000 shares. It's I don't realize how. I guess I lose touch over the off season, because the off season for me is a time to get the hell away from baseball. And love it as I do. You need a break at some point, and I'm returning to spring training for baseball fans is quite exciting. For me, it means the end of a beautiful winter where I sit on my couch. And let's be real, I don't do much. So it's always that helps get me back into the swing of things, recognizing, okay, people care about this, So it's always, and if there is anything Blue Jays fans are, it is passionate, sometimes strangely so, but that's the reason people like me have these made up jobs. So it's good.
Well, I know I saw the TV ratings for that first spring training game, and it was almost 500,000 people. And I was just like, that's ridiculous.
Oh, it's crazy. Right. When you compare that to other markets and what they do in other markets, I think, certainly I experience it a lot that, we're on this weird island up in Canada that people don't recognize the market share or the market size. But then you see numbers like what Sportsnet does, 400, 500K for a spring training game. And it's difficult to overstate how unimportant the spring training game is. This is glorified stretching at this point.
It's and right up there with CFL.
Like, that is crazy. Those are crazy numbers.
No, they are absolutely crazy numbers, and it does go to show you the thirst baseball fans have after a long offseason. We've got lots of spring training talk, lots of projections for you to do, obviously, but let's start with taking a look at the past. Just last night, or yesterday afternoon, I should say, the Blue Jays announced that their icon, Jose Bautista, is actually going to be raised to the level of excellence. Obviously, not a big surprise to most of us Blue Jays fans. In fact, most of us were calling for it. And I mean, you've covered the man and watched him for many years. In your mind, where does Jose Bautista rank amongst Blue Jays greats? And what are some things that you think of when you hear Jose Bautista's name that isn't the bat flip?
Yeah, once you get past Roy Halladay, I think Bautista's right there, because the Blue Jays have always been starved for a homegrown talent. Bautista was not that, but he's about as close as you get, because until he was traded to the Blue Jays for Robinson Diaz, I mean, whoever was on the other side of that trade must still not sleep. Like, that is wrong. He was as close as you can get for a guy, late 20s who came here and blossomed, similar to Edwin Encarnacion, a lot of great late bloomers in Toronto. But what he embodied more than the baseball, I think, was the energy of those 14, 15, 16 teams that were ramping up and then competitive, which was that they had an edge. There was a real FU edge to those teams, which Josh Donaldson certainly helped with, and a lot of the other guys. But Bautista, for one of the first times ever, was a Toronto star that everybody else hated, which is the ultimate compliment. When Roy Halladay was in Toronto, it's not like the rest of the league hated Roy Halladay. Yeah. Frankly, most of the rest of the league felt bad for him, saying, my God, get that guy out of there and let him win some games. It's not like Roy Halladay was pounding his chest and stomping off the mound with two middle fingers up to the crowd. Jose Bautista was that guy. You see a bit of that with an Alek Manoah. You saw it with JD when he was in Toronto. The ability to be loved in your city and hated everywhere else is very rare, but that's what makes a player stick, because Lord knows in Toronto, we are desperate. I can't believe I just said we. That's horrible. Fans are desperate. Fans of Toronto sports, not me, a non-Toronto, are desperate to grab anything and consider it of Toronto or something that belongs to Toronto, because it's sometimes been a star-starved market. But Bautista was all of that. The peak that he had, I wish he'd extended that a little longer so we could have more of a Hall of Fame conversation with him, but his peak was crazy. And what he did for those teams, he dragged this team out of being irrelevant. And frankly, we underrate this at times. I certainly do. He made baseball cool again in Canada, in Toronto. That is half of the trick. You've seen the Raptors do such a good job with that. It's not just about winning. It's about making your game a cool place to be. That's kind of hard in baseball, which is not always the coolest sport, let's admit. But Bautista did that. He was a reason to buy a ticket to a baseball game on some crappy teams. And then he was the star of the show and had the biggest moments outside of Joe Carter with the bat flip. I wish that this was a city that built statues. Don't have an answer for you on that one.
Yeah.
But if and when they ever do decide to, do a cool baseball thing and build some statues, it's got to be Bautista as well.
I mean, that bat flip is iconic, but I mean, truly, 2010 stands out in my mind because it seemed to be the start to reinvigorating the love of baseball across this country of Canada. I mean, we hadn't seen anybody like Jose Bautista do that ever, right? 54 home runs, man. That was absolutely insane to watch. And you're right, man, when you say that he just kind of put baseball back on a pedestal for the city of Toronto. And it's pretty darn cool to see that happen. I know I was on Twitter and you kind of posted a story about 2017 when you first started on the beat there with the Jays.
Let me tell that. That was so when I started, and Gregor Chisholm, he's now the Toronto Star columnist, loves to remind me of this. When I started, I was his intern for a year. And we got along great immediately. We're both Maritimers. He's from New Brunswick, which we try not to hold against him. It's tough. But of his many flaws, that is one. And that's back when we had an internship program at MLB.com. I was the intern that year. And like I said, I was way too eager, shirt tucked into slacks, dress shoes, clean shaven, first one there, last one out every day, lots of fake hustle, like any good young reporter. And I remember one of my very first assignments that Gregor gave me, we were standing down in the field and he goes, all right, Keegs, we'd already known each other a few days, fast friends. He said, Keegs, I need you to get something from Jose for me. They had just come back, I believe, from a road trip early in the season. And he said, Jose, I think they've been hitting off the curveball machine. Is there anything that you can do? Maybe ask Jose about the curveball machine. So I'm eager as hell. That's back when MLB was just starting with StatCast stuff too. So I thought, oh God, yeah, I'm going to get some fancy numbers. Everyone at the company is going to be so happy about what I'm doing. So I go up and I look on the road trip. The Blue Jays had hit 180 against breaking balls. And this is over 7 or 8 games. Again, I was way too eager. And I wait for Jose. And what people don't know about our job is that most of it's standing around and waiting, either standing around waiting for a guy to come in from the outfield, shagging fly balls, waiting for a guy to finish warmups, waiting for a guy to put his pants on in the locker room so I can go over and talk to him. That shoulder checking for pants. That's a key to my job. Jose was in the outfield for, it must have been 2 hours, shagging fly balls. And I'm standing there waiting. I had not interviewed him before. And he finally ran by. And I said, Jose, can I just have a moment with you? Instead of saying yes or sure, he just stopped and stared at me, which is a very intimidating way to say yes to an interview. Just stopped and glared at me. And I thought, okay, I guess I'll start talking. And I asked him about the curveball machine, and he seemed very confused. And then I asked the question, something along the lines of, well, on the opening road trip, it seemed like the lineup was having a little bit of trouble against just breaking balls. Is that part of why you were hitting off the curveball machine? And he looked at me and pondered the numbers for a second. And he said, there's no way to know that. And I said, thank you for your time. And he walked away. And I went back up to the press box and quickly learned that Gregor and multiple members of the beat had been looking down, watching me for the entire 2 hours, just pacing the field, about to ask a guy about a machine that did not exist and had never existed. Certainly had never been used by Jose. And it was nice. It was the perfect level of ribbing. Welcome to the beat. And it was 2017, so this team was about to go anyway. So we weren't ruining any relationships. But yeah, I still remember Jose looking at me and saying, "There's no way of knowing that." And in my mind, I'm thinking, you know what? I might be the worst reporter in the world. This is probably my last day on the beat. This is it for me.
Oh man, I love that so much. The amount of buddies I have in the trades that always tell similar stories that they
board
send off
stretcher.
the apprentice to, yeah. I'd love to hear. It's happening on the
That's
writing
great.
side of the game too. Yeah.
Hey, it was good.